Hello, my name is Rachel Adams, and this is the Serene Support Home Birth Podcast. And I'm very excited to talk to Alicia today, Allie, as we call her. I am a birth and postpartum doula, as well as a yoga instructor and a realtor in the Chesterfield, Virginia area. So now, Allie, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, nice to meet you again. I'm Allie or Alicia. Most people call me Allie, and I'm a stay-at-home mom of 3 who were all recently under 3 until February. So that's been fun. And we live in Virginia Beach. I was born and raised here. So, it's the biggest small town, right? So that's fun. There's lots of people in the birth community, and so I'm so glad to meet you. I love that it's growing here. Virginia is such a small, big place. So,
For sure.
And I guess, so we're gonna jump right in there, right?
Yes. So you have 3 children. So we'll just start with number 1 with the pregnancy.
Yeah, I guess so. I was 19 and it was a new relationship. So, I was still a kid and I didn't know anything except that I wanted to be a doula. And so I knew I wanted a natural birth, right? But nobody I ever knew had really had that. I was so much into the party scene. Actually, it's really funny to look back on me now back then. But so I went through it doing all the things, that you're supposed to do. I got the OB that my mom had with me. I went and did all the tests, got all the shots. I'm RhoGAM negative, so I had to get the RhoGAM shot. Well, that's what the OB had said to me. So, and I did all of that. And it was pretty easy aside from I had HG. So I was sick all the time. And so this is a new relationship, right? So my partner we were just really getting to know each other. And so it was an interesting dynamic. So I was sick all the time and doing a lot and working. And she was actually born 3 weeks early at 37 weeks. And I guess my boyfriend's mom always told me, don't go in until you can't talk. Just, if you're able to have a conversation, you're probably good. The baby's not coming yet. So I labored at home. Probably my water broke around midnight. My boyfriend's a super big gamer, so he was preoccupied. I was like, I think I peed myself, but I don't really know. So he was like, oh yeah, whatever. Okay, I'm in a tournament, Okay, so I was like, all right, cool. So I just labored alone and walked around and did my thing. And about 4 hours later, I was like, okay, I really can't move. I couldn't even get downstairs to get to the bathroom. I was like, I think we need to go now. Luckily, we live about 15 minutes from the hospital here, so it's not too bad. So I was like, we need to go right now. Everyone's freaking out. It's the first grandbaby on both sides. So everyone's calling me, we're rushing to the hospital right now. We're going to be there. They all wanted to be there. This is pre-COVID, right? So everyone's trying to get in the hospital. I'm like, no. I don't want anyone there. Let's get there. Hopefully I have this baby before they get here. So everyone lives within 2 hours of us, our whole family. So yeah, that was pretty intimidating. So we got there and, oh, you're a first-time mom. You're good. Just wait in the lobby. You're probably not that far along in labor. So we waited, and then I was like, no, this is coming. And then they got me in a room, and probably this is 2 hours later. At that point, we had been waiting in the lobby a little while. So it's 6 o'clock, and within 30 minutes of being in the room, she was out, and everyone walked in the hospital 5 minutes later. So I guess it was pretty smooth. They did have enough time, I guess, to give me antibiotics. They didn't really have a test for GBS on me. And so they were like, oh, it's protocol. We just do this for everyone. And so I try to look back on it, on all the positives, but that really kind of has stuck with me and was a big reason I changed a lot of how I gave birth with the other 2. I had a severe allergic reaction, actually, right before they put us in the room. So I was ripping the IVs. I was like, no, my body's burning. You can't do this to me. So, but she came out and there was no GBS infection present. So everything was pretty good. Like I said, that was just pretty traumatic being like given no other option with the antibiotics for sure. So
and you mentioned HG, so was there anything that you did that helped any of those symptoms? I know that's rough for moms.
Yeah, it was really intense. I actually had to quit my job. Luckily, my partner, who, like I said, was very new, was super supportive of that. So I rested a lot, and I did a really plain diet, which I don't know if I just felt called to really just keep it simple, like peanut butter sandwiches and hamburgers. And he worked at Five Guys, so I got a free hamburger now and then, and potatoes. And
yummy.
Sounds awful. I wasn't eating it every day, okay? Sometimes, you know.
Whatever works, whatever you can keep down.
Yes, exactly. So now and then it was a burger, but I wasn't really super health conscious at the time either. So it was really all very plain, whatever I could stomach. And then I actually used a lot of like full spectrum cannabis products. Thank you, Rivi. Tinctures in particular, and like salves topically, and then like magnesium baths. Those were the three things I really leaned on. Were
great.
Definitely those.
Those are great tools. God,
yeah,
I just share that.
I know, and you know, I knew I wanted to not be part of like a lot of the pharmaceutical stuff at the time. I just wasn't really. I didn't have the community yet, for sure, at that point, like I do now.
Great. So how was your postpartum right after birth? You said that everyone came in like 5 minutes after, or they got to the hospital 5 minutes after you gave birth.
Yeah, that was really intense. So they actually took her right away. I didn't know. I mean, I knew I wanted delayed cord clamping, but they were like, oh, we delayed it. It wasn't, I felt like I couldn't really speak up almost and be like, well, for how long? I felt like I couldn't really speak up almost like from them taking her. So since she was early, they wanted to run all the tests and do all the things, and they took her away. And after they did the testing, I guess we went in the room and everyone was there and trying to, of course, like pass the baby around. And so that was a lot. I didn't know how to really find my voice at the time. I had a lot of people kind of just telling me what to do, and kind of, I wasn't secure. I was like, I'm not a mom, so I don't know, you know. I wanted to kind of learn all the things from everyone around me. And so I was like, okay, you know, they're passing the baby around. This is, I guess, what people do, right? So, and then everyone left, and postpartum was really good. I had a lot of support. It was, like I said, the first grandbaby on both sides. So everyone really kind of wanted to have her all the time and spoil her all the time. And breastfeeding was really easy. It came pretty now. I had one hiccup, I will say, and I talked to a lactation counselor, and it was luckily out of the hospital. She was really helpful, and my daughter was having trouble. She hadn't nursed in like 6 hours, so she wouldn't nurse, and I was like, what's happening? She won't even. And they actually just told me, squeeze a little out and just give her a taste. And then I did that, and she was all about it again. I was like, wow, so easy, you know.
That's a good tip.
Exactly. I was like, wow, it was that easy. And I was over here stressing out, crying, like, she won't eat. I don't know what to do. So
a little hand expression helped.
Yeah, for sure. And I never pumped with her either. I never actually got anything with a pump, but when I would hand express, I would get upwards of 4 to 6 ounces. So hi, Lay. So she nursed exclusively, and did really well, like I said, and slept really well. We did a lot of elimination communication, so it was like a full-time job with her. So we did a lot of that and elimination communication. Hey, Liana, hey, honey, I'm on the phone, remember? So it was pretty easy. I tried to go back to work for a little while when she was about 6 months, and like I said, I couldn't pump, so it made it really difficult to go back, and I actually ended up getting pregnant again while I was exclusively nursing her and trying to work. And so yeah, so I just had to quit work again and come home and be pregnant with a second one and have HG all over again. That was with a baby. So
it's the same experience, feeling very nauseous through the second pregnancy.
Yes. And it was awful because nobody had ever explained to me what nursing aversion was. Like, I had never heard of that. And so, like I said, she was exclusively nursing, like wouldn't take bottles for the longest time. And so I actually had her brought up to my job when I was working to nurse her. So, she just, when she nursed, it was so awful. I wanted to keep doing it, and I did. But a lot of the time I was just like crying my whole second pregnancy. I was so staying at home, being pregnant and being the full-time mom while my partner works all the time. He works like 50, 60-hour weeks sometimes. So it's hard for him to really, do a lot around the house. So a lot of it falls to me. And it was not a great time. No, it was a lot.
Yes.
That's how I explain. I was just like, it was so much. I'm just like, oh, I'm glad. After that, I was like, I'm never having another baby again. I have 2, like, they're so perfect. It's great. Like, we're done. So the pregnancy, like I said, was awful. And then he was full term. So he was actually born on his birthday. And we had, at this point, right when I got pregnant with him, moved into a tiny home that we had renovated. And we were living there in Knott's Island, like Currituck area, where it's like, it's frowned upon there, but lots of people do it. So
you did a full birth in your tiny home?
Yeah, I did actually. That was an exciting time, like out and it's in a community too out there. Like, there's neighbors and stuff.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, did you spend a lot of time outside, like going on walks in early labor?
Oh yeah, for sure we did, because it's right there. So it's on the island. So both sides of where we had lived were water. So our front yard we had our little plot, our yard and stuff, and our deck. And then we had, the water was right there, and like the boat ramp and stuff. And there was a park, and the state park is right up the road too. So we were very outdoorsy. I felt like grounding definitely helped in my second pregnancy, more so with the nausea stuff, just constantly being outside whenever we could. I remember that year it rained a lot though. I think it was like there's 2 weeks where we were just trapped inside the camper, and I was pregnant, and just, I remember that so vividly. Like every day, you know how it is here. So Southeast Virginia. Oh,
yes. And it can be really yucky one day and then really great the next, and you never know.
Exactly. So I'm just constantly, anytime it was like sort of nice out, I was like, okay, we're out. Like, we're right outside. We're not staying in. So it forced us to be outside for sure. I love the tiny home. And so we ended up having him there. My water actually broke. It started to trickle like 2 days before he was born. And so I went to the hospital just to have it checked if it was actually amniotic fluid, and to check on him and stuff. And he had an arrhythmia too. We have a history of heart problems. And that's another reason I hadn't ever wanted to take anything. Like, Zofran is linked to defects with the heart and others. So
did you use cannabis products as well for that pregnancy to help?
With him, I was more weary. It was mostly topical with him, because with the arrhythmia, I really wanted to just do as little as possible. They were like, don't even like chocolate, caffeine, any of that. It made his heart jump around super crazy. And I had one ultrasound done at some point in my pregnancy, just to make sure it wasn't like a structural issue, so that we could have him at home. And we went to the specialist hospital like in the city. And so they were like, nope, he's good. CHKD was like, it's not a structural issue. So I just wanted to, once the waters broke, get him checked, make sure his heart was beating as it was supposed to, have everything checked out. And they were like, yep, he's good. But we want to keep you because your water's been broken. If it doesn't progress in, so many hours, we're going to have to do like a cesarean section. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. So I'm not comfortable here. Everything slowed down once I got to the hospital too. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I want to go home. I just want to hang out, relax, sleep as much as I can. So I had my daughter go over to her Grammy's house. And just because it was a lot in the small space, I was like, oh, I want her there. And then I was like, oh, I need to move freely in this small space and not, disturb her while she's sleeping. So Dropped her off, and then I labored for a couple days. It was on and off. My partner requested off work and stayed with me and was super supportive and helpful. And then after the second day, we went to the hospital that night. I was like, okay, after 48 hours, we need to go. It's been 2 days. Let's go to the hospital. I just want to get checked again. Let's go together. So we went that night at like 9 o'clock. As I said, 9 o'clock is my cutoff. If there's no baby, we got to go. So we went around 9 and we got there. And of course they were like, oh, you're not in labor. And then they're like, oh, wait, you're the woman that came here 2 days ago. Yeah, you are. Get up here. So then they brought me up and the same doctor was there. Lovely, right? So she came, she's like, oh, it's been 2 days. We need to get you in the cesarean right now. We need to take you. They weren't even taking heart tones. They hadn't even checked anything, asked me any questions. They were just like, we need to, no water, no food. Let's get you in an IV. Let's go. Like, let's prepare you for this. And I was like, no. Like, I want to see what's happening. Like, why is this happening? I need some kind of explanation because I feel fine. I feel him moving. It doesn't feel scary. Like there was no blood at that point or no excess fluid in a trickle. So they wouldn't do it. And I was like, okay, whatever. I looked at my boyfriend. I was like, are we here for this really? They're not giving us answers. They're not telling us anything. They're just telling us we're going to kill our baby. Like she literally said, do you want to give birth or do you want to have an alive baby? And I was like, oh, like what kind of fear mongering craziness? So I was like, we're going to go home. And he was like, okay, I support you.
So at that time, did you have a midwife that you were working with for your home birth?
No, I was just going through CHKD, like the Centera over at in Norfolk, like the specialty hospital that deals with like high risk stuff because he had the arrhythmia. Mm-hmm. So, and they're more versed in that. So I was just seeing them over in Norfolk. So I was like, no, let's just go home. And we got home around 12:30 and he was born within an hour. And at that point we lived like 45 minutes from the hospital. We had just moved like 45 minutes, from the hospital. And I was like, once we got there, I was like, there's no stopping this. Like he's coming. And so, we were not really prepared actually, even though it was his due date, like 1 something in the morning on his due date, he was born. We didn't have any really home birth supplies. I was like, man, all I have is like the Frida stuff from Target. Like, I guess we can use this. And then we burnt his cord so that we didn't risk infection. We didn't have any, I didn't want to just use like scissors or something that wasn't sterile. So we burnt his cord. And once it was like 6 a.m., I called CHKD and I was like, hey, I just had this baby like 5 hours ago. Can we come and have him checked out? I want to have his EKG done on his heart and all that stuff. And my chiropractor actually came and saw him first thing in the morning before we even went to the doctor. And he nursed like a champ. He was just such a good baby. He just hung out.
So this was a little bit more calm than the first.
Yes,
postpartum
for sure.
wise.
Yes, it was. And I wish I had like a midwife system there for that one. That was really the one I was like, man, I really wanted some kind of support that was medically trained because of his heart defect. I really wish there was someone. But since we had technically lived in Currituck, there are no midwives that really service that area. The legalities of technical North Carolina are that they can't serve home births unless they're under a doctor. So it makes getting one in North Carolina much more difficult than it is in Virginia. So that's partially why I stuck with the hospital right over the line in Virginia and I just chose to go rogue there at the end. I was like, this is crazy. Like, I know he's going to be okay. And he was. I just had to trust my intuition on that one because, everyone was saying, oh, his blood's on your hands. And everyone was pretty against me with that one. So, but I found my voice finally. I was like, no, I know I'm a good mom now. I've done this. I can totally do this. Like, this is what I'm made for. So that's where I was at with number 2. And then being a mom of 2 was adjustment. There was a lot of adjusting to do. I always say that was the hardest for me, was from like having just me and my daughter all day to now I'm like there's two of them and one of me. So when their dad was around, it was pretty easy because then we were like even, but when it's throughout the day, I'm like, and I'm exclusively nursing and then tandem nursing both of them until my daughter turned 2. So
yes, as a postpartum doula, I work with a lot of families that have 2 children, 1 toddler and 1 infant, and it helps definitely with bonding. I can watch the toddler, or I can watch the newborn, and you just get one-on-one time.
And that's what I wish I had too. And it's really hard because we were pretty low income too. So having access to those things, like if our insurance had covered it, would have been so great. Or now I know that I can start trains where people can actually support that financially and like donate to the cause, which I think if I were to have a 4th, I would do that for sure, because bonding with him was the one thing I feel like I didn't do enough of, because I was like, oh, my daughter feels like I'm abandoning her. I don't want her to feel like I'm giving her up for this new baby. So I was like, I don't know how to split my time. So I definitely feel like if I would have had someone there throughout the day, even for a couple of hours, it would have been so great. And then again, I guess after him, he was exclusively nursing. And then I started to get like weird aversions again. Like all 3 times, it happened in one time too. So we did the deed right unprotected one time for each one of them. So I knew each time when they were conceived, because every time I was like, oh, we did it that one time, of course. Right. So I knew right when she was conceived, and then I had those aversions and I was like, okay, I'm doing this one totally different. Like I'm going to be super conscious about it. I have 2 now. I think 3rd time's a charm, I hope. So I was super health conscious. I actually stopped being vegan. I was a vegan for 5 years, like really strict. And it was like really affecting my health. And I forgot to mention that COVID had a factor too in my seconds, like leaving. They were like trying to have me labor in a mask. So, this is all during the second 2 were all during the height of COVID. So that's why I kind of went rogue. I was like, COVID is happening. This hospital's craziness. I gotta go. So the second one now, I'm COVID still happening. It's not, I guess, as crazy, but it's still pretty intense. Mask mandates are still happening. And I actually was working at a bank at this point. And so it was very, structured. It was very part-time though. It was only a couple days a week. So I was working and pregnant and doing the kids, and my partner's working still 60-hour weeks. And so we're trying to save up and buy a house. So that was the goal of the tiny home stuff anyway. So, and this pregnancy was super different. I was seeing a functional nutritionist, and that was basically my only prenatal care. Was I had a LPN who was doing tests and blood work for me, and I had Doppler at home. That's all the stuff that I had done for my 3rd. And I had at that point been pretty integrated into like the home birth community. So I had a couple midwives like locally who were helping me navigate the birth certificate stuff and the registering the kids. And
so 2 questions. Did you have HG with your 3rd pregnancy, and where were you for your 3rd pregnancy?
So in the 3rd pregnancy, we started at the camper, and I didn't actually.
And that's still in North Carolina?
Yeah, still at the camper. We started off the pregnancy at the camper, and it was crazy because I was like, I got pregnant in springtime, but I didn't know it. So I was like, oh, ducks. Like, I'm going to get ducks. I'm going to start my garden. Like, so I had just gotten baby ducks, and now I'm working at this new job, and like, it was just crazy. And so it was a fun time though. So we started off there, and then I got pregnant and started working, and I was like, okay, this is really hard to handle doing all of this. Like a lot of it by myself, like I said, because he was working way more than me. So I was still doing a lot of it by myself. So we started there, and then I was sick for the first probably 6 weeks, like 6 real weeks. So technically, I guess 8 or 10 weeks if you start from conception, right? So yeah, like 2 weeks after conception, when it starts to grow, right, I started to feel sick. And but it went away actually. Once I really feel like the diet changes though, because as soon as I knew I was pregnant with that one, I was like, okay, going to get my blood drawn, going to see where I need to improve, see the nutritionist, see what I can eat, get a meal plan, and start on it. And I really feel like looking at the core issues inside of me and not just treating the symptoms that I was experiencing because of HG really helped. I don't know if that's a fact. There's no proof, right? But I really feel like consciously making that effort really made a difference with her. So it was pretty smooth, and I did a lot. Was super active. And she was born probably 2 weeks before her due date. And her labor was prodromal labor for weeks. As the third baby, I was like seeing my chiropractor twice a week.
So another free birth, or did you have a midwife?
I did have another free birth with her, and hers was the best so far because I had a lot of support. Like I said, I didn't have a midwife, but I had a lot of community support.
Did you ever have a doula? I know you were talking about you wanted to become a doula.
Yeah, I actually had my doula she has narcolepsy. I love her to death, actually. I've known her forever before she was my doula. And she has narcolepsy. So it's funny because she can't always, if it's like a narcoleptic attack, she can't always come. So I was like, let's do it virtually. Like, I really want to have a free birth anyway. And if I need you to come all the way out to Naz Island, I know she would do it. And I was like, but I really just, if I'm having a problem, I want to be able to talk to you, ask for support, and, make sure I'm making the right calls and not just being stubborn, basically, So she was a big help for me to like call on and be like, what can I do here? Do you think I'm making the right calls here? And she never gave me medical advice, obviously, but she was always like, as long as it's not coming from just a fear-based, it has to be knowledge, if there's something obviously happening, constantly checking temperatures and fluids and heart tones when I could. And so she was really
and there's
supportive.
Power in talking to someone else, even if they're not a medical professional, just, bouncing ideas off of them.
Exactly. And she was very supportive. And like I said, they helped me find all the stuff I needed for free because we were lower income and trying to save up for a house. And so I got all the supplies I needed for that one for free. And prodromal labor. So I ended up getting my daughter to her Grammy's house and her brother because we just wanted to be near the hospital because it was the 3rd time, and I was pretty anemic, actually. That's another reason I changed my diet pretty drastically, was the anemia. I started to eat way different because of that. So I was like, if I hemorrhage, that's not like we'll call the ambulance situation. Like that takes how long for a human, to completely bleed out. So I was like, I want to be right there. So we got a hotel. And it was like a really fancy one in Norfolk, with the kitchen and, all the fancy stuff. And my camper was kind of off grid. So it was no hot water. I had to boil water to wash dishes and boil water to draw the bath for the kids. And so I was like, hotel, because I want to be able to take a nice hot shower and ease some of that pain. I was having pretty heavy back labor. So we got there, took a shower. The kids were with their Grammy, and we just hung out in the hospital for probably, it wasn't even like 6 hours, I think. We got there, we checked in, and then my water started to leak. And like, I started to get that first show, I don't know what words I'm allowed to say on your podcast. Like, I don't want to be gory, but I guess it's a birth podcast, right? So like, I got my bloody show, right? So that first, and so I was like, okay, this is happening. And all night I like labored pretty heavily in the tub, and he did a lot of counter pressure and called Brittany a couple times. I was like, oh, I need you to like, what is rebozo? She texted me about rebozo stuff and like the counter pressure. Cause when you're in that mindset, I feel like sometimes it's hard to remember the stuff that you already know almost. Like I'm in labor. I'm like, I'm just trying to get this baby out. Like, I know what to do, but just remind me what to do here. So I can relinquish that one thing while I focus on this thing for me. So she was helpful, and my friends were really supportive. Like, you got this. And So the next day, I labored all day and it started to pick up. It slowed down probably in the morning. I could take a nap around 10. I was like, okay, go get me some breakfast. Like, I want a steak. So he went and got a steak once they opened at 11, and I had the steak. And then it like picked up immediately right after that. And I got back in the shower and she was born by 4:30 that afternoon of the very next day once we got to the hotel. So yeah, that was like the most intense part. The very end, I was in the shower and I told my partner I told him, I was like, all these affirmations, that's what I need from you. Unless I ask for something else, like, you know, I just really need you to remind me of these things. And it was like that I'm opening up like a flower, basically. It's like, I want to be reminded that I'm blooming this child like out into the world, that this is not pain, like these are necessary waves. I was like, please remind me of that so that I don't lose that like in this process. So he was there next to me right as, you know, the ring of fire was happening. Like, she's coming, you're like blossoming right up. She's like coming into this world. You're beautiful. The baby's beautiful. And then her head came out and then he was quiet, like just silent. He didn't say anything. He was like, okay, we got to get this baby out. That was the only thing he said. He was like, you got to get this baby out and you're doing a great job. And it didn't feel panicky, but it just wasn't like his normal, the tone like he had right before that. I was like, he's kind of switched his tone. He's still being supportive. What's happening here? So I was like, okay. And then the next wave came and she came out in just one wave. And I looked down and the cord was around her neck twice over. And so I reached down and I unwrapped it around her neck and it was still pulsing and purple. And she was like all covered in vernix. And I turned her over and patted her back and she let out a cry immediately. And then I pulled her up and she nursed like right there, right out of the womb, like so perfect.
That's a great experience.
Yeah. And it was just, he was there and he started crying. We didn't even know it was a girl until he was like, wait a minute, what is it? Because I was so worried. Sounds bad. I was worried I was going to have another boy. I was like, I want a girl so bad, but I'm going to have a boy and it's going to be okay because I'm going to love him even when he's crazy, like my other son. So I was like, it's going to be good. I was like, I don't know. So then I finally looked down as she's nursing and we were both like, oh, our girl, we're done. Like, this is it for real this time. So, because it was so perfect and she, you know, it was just so great. Like the whole thing, we felt so supported, and then for her to come so easy and in such a, it just felt like safe, and it was really simple cleanup too. Like there was no excess blood or hemorrhaging, and I had tinctures on hand to help get the placenta out. It came within the hour, and we kept her attached for quite the longest out of all three. And then we burnt her cord, just like my son's. So
where did you actually end up giving birth? I know you said you were in the shower right before. Was it in the bathroom?
Yes. So I told him right as I knew she was coming, because I started to shake. And so I'm like, okay, I'm shaking. Like this is happening right now. I was like, you got to turn the water off. I don't know. I have this weird, strange fear of babies being born in the water. I don't know why. It's a thing I've got to get over, right? But anyway, so I was like, you got to turn the water off. So I was still in the bathtub because I was also a little bit stressed out because I bled a lot with my son because I was at home and I was like, it was really messy. So I was like, I don't want to make a huge mess in this hotel. So I stayed there just on all fours in the bathtub, which was not super comfortable. And I don't recommend it. I've heard now that you can put like a yoga mat in there. So maybe, but
or like some towels you can just throw away.
Exactly. Yeah, that would have been so clever. All the things I know now where I can, give other women advice if they ask for it. So,
well, that's what this is for.
Yes. I heard a rumor recently. They were like, if you have one towel, you'll use one towel. If you have 20 towels, you use 20 towels. So that makes so much sense, right? So I had no towels though, except the hotel towels. And I was like, no, don't get blood on the towels. Like we can't do that. We had towels, but I didn't want to get them all. I wanted to rinse off first, basically. So yeah, I gave birth to her on all fours. And my son, I was like on my knees, kind of standing up when I gave birth to him. And my daughter was like classic hospital on my back. So I feel like I just got like more primal over the years.
Yeah, that's great to see the progression of the hospital birth and then your second one, you had some complications, but still a home birth in your tiny house. It can be done, people. Yes, and hospital births can be done as well. So, wow, fascinating.
Yeah, and the hospital, like I said, was great. Everyone there really was. It's just, if people, I guess, want to have a hospital birth, my biggest thing is make sure you're confident, even though if someone doesn't have a baby yet, like, you already know, it's already in you,
Yeah, the hotel's a great idea. I've heard a couple of other stories about that, if you want to be closer to the hospital and everything. So
exactly, because our other option was that we stayed at his mom's, who also lives 45 minutes from a hospital. So it was like, we're either 45 minutes here or staying there with a shower, but it's still 45 minutes. So really I was really just wanting to make sure that it was safe. I was like, I can't get lucky 3 times and have living, beautiful, perfect kids, right? But I did get that lucky. So
that's great. So you said that she nursed right away. How was that postpartum period for you?
It was pretty good. It was good, but stressful. We had a lot going on in our personal lives as well. At that point, it was the housing crisis and trying to find a home here. And now we're living with family. And so there's a really interesting dynamic with both of our families where they're not we both come from super religious backgrounds. So they kind of look at us like crazy people, when I'm like pro bodily autonomy and, my son's not circumcised. They were like, and the Bible says, but anyway, so it wasn't, there wasn't a lot of support for the third time around, because they're like, you're still not married. What's going on here? This is 3 kids now, and you're doing things kind of crazy over here. Like, you're seeing a chiropractor and you don't put them in diapers. They poop on the potty. This is weird.
Wow. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. I want to hear about that.
The elimination communication thing. Oh yes. That has been a source of some drama here, but basically, so for the first 2 weeks, I chill with them. Right. And I just kind of notice how they're flowing in their day, how they kind of get regular after a couple weeks too. The first week is always like 7,000 poops a day, right? Mm-hmm. But after that, it gets kind of regular and they start to have little cues. My kids all kind of had like little muscle movements in their face where I would notice that they had to go. And then I start holding them over the potty and just starting to associate those little muscle movements with a sound. So like pss for pee or grunting for poops. And then eventually I start to integrate sign language as well, so that they can communicate like more effectively. It's basically all about just communicating with your kids. I tell people it's not necessarily potty training, because my 2-year-old will still sometimes want to go pee in his pants, but they're stubborn. But it's all about, they get familiar with it and you're communicating.
And they get comfortable. Yeah, some kids are really scared of the potty. I mean, it makes loud noises, and but they can get used to that at a young age. I think that's great.
Exactly. And I've heard horror stories of kids being afraid to poop on the potty and like hiding behind couches and stuff. And so I've heard of all that kind of stuff happening. And I've just never luckily experienced that, because like I said, I'm always pretty hands-on with it too. It kind of forces you to be more present and conscious of what's going on throughout the day too, in a way. That's why I always tell people it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely about the journey with elimination communication and not the final destination. So it took me 3 kids to learn that one too. The first one, I was like okay, she's potty trained. Like we're good. She's in panties. And now I'm just like, you know what? We're just learning. It's cool. So that's where we're at now.
That's great. Thank you for sharing about that.
Yeah. And people just don't get it, because holding a baby over a potty, it looks strange when they're a newborn. They can't sit up. So people just, to me, I ask them, what if you were old and you were in a home and you had to wear diapers and someone's making you sit in your soiled diaper all day? You don't want to do that. You wouldn't make your dog sit in their cage if they had pooped. So I just don't make my kids sit in their soiled diapers. I'm really on it and conscious about it. So to me, I'm like, if I wouldn't want that, why would they want it? They're little people. So.
Awesome. Great to hear. I love hearing other people's experiences. There's more than one way to do everything, obviously, and I love to hear all of the ways.
Yes, for sure.
That's great. Anything else you'd like to add? Maybe any words of wisdom for any women who are thinking about having a home birth?
I guess to reiterate that it's about the journey. Like, birth can be ecstatic. It can be ecstasy. It's intense, but just accepting it almost. Motherhood is all about surrender and grace and patience. And it starts, with conception, grace, patience, through pregnancy. And then you have to follow through in that labor. So that's really like the most biggest test of, and we all pass, whether it's through a cesarean or through the vaginal canal, you've passed. Like, there's no, like you said, wrong or right way to do it.
Alrighty. Well, I just want to say thank you. You are so powerful. Alrighty. Well, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Serene Support. I also post yoga videos for everyone, but also for prenatal yoga as well. And yeah, click subscribe if you want to hear more birth stories. If you'd like to share your home birth, you can email me. I'll leave all of my links down in the description. Check them out. Thank you again. Alrighty, hope to see you guys again.